There's a story, an ancient one etched right into the foundation of our world, and it explains the two great paths of the human heart. It's not just some old tale, it's our story. It's the blueprint for the civilizations we build and for the private wars we wage inside ourselves. Today, we're going to look deep into that foundational story. We're going to explore the two ways. Let me ask you something. Have you ever poured everything you have, your soul, your strength, your best, into your work, praying it would be enough, only to be met with a kind of hollow silence? That feeling, that spiritual exhaustion, that sense of being unseen, rejected at your very core, well, that feeling is as old as humanity itself. And the answer to that struggle, it begins in the most unexpected place. It starts right after Eden, out in the dust and the thorns of a fallen world. Now listen, this is not just some simple Sunday school lesson about jealousy. No, this is the first great clash between two spiritual bloodlines that God himself said would come. It's the way of self-reliance versus the way of faith. And it all comes to a head in a single moment of worship. Right there, before two altars, humanity splits in two. The path you're on, the path I'm on, it really began right here, with this one choice. This is the great divergence. Okay, so let's look at what happened. On one side, you've got Cain, the farmer. He brings an offering from the ground, right? The fruit of his own labor, his sweat, his toil, from ground that God himself had cursed. But then you have Abel, the shepherd. He does something completely different. He doesn't bring his work, he brings a substitute. He brings blood, the firstborn, the best of his flock, acknowledging that something had to die to cover his sin. And here's the shocker. God accepts Abel and his offering, but he has no regard for Cain and his. Now why? Come on, was God just being picky? Did he have a preference for meat over vegetables? Or is there something much, much deeper going on here? Well, the heart of the matter is this. It was never about the items on the altar. It was about the heart behind them. First, look at the nature of the gift. Cain brought his own achievement. His offering basically said, "Look what I did." But Abel brought a blood sacrifice. He was admitting he couldn't earn his way to God. The book of Hebrews tells us Abel offered his gift in faith. Cain, he was just checking a religious box. And finally, look at the honor. Abel brought the firstborn, the absolute best. He put God first. Cain, he just brought some of his stuff. Now, you'd think this rejection from God might lead Cain to some humility. But it doesn't. It leads to rage. And in that hot burning anger, God gives him one of the most chilling warnings in all of Scripture. This is the very first time the Bible gives sin a personality. It's not just a mistake. It's a predator, a beast, crouching, coiled, waiting for the door of your heart to crack open just enough so it can pounce and consume you. And God tells Cain straight up, you must rule over it. But he won't. And so, what does he do? He lures his brother, Abel, out into a field, and he murders him. And when God asks where Abel is, Cain fires back with this icy, defiant question. The irony is just staggering. As the older brother, yes, he was supposed to be his brother's keeper, his protector. Instead, he became his predator. But God hears a voice that Cain can't. He says, "The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." This is a profound spiritual truth right here. Innocent blood has a voice. It soaks into the earth, and it screams for justice, a cry that reaches the very throne of God himself. So Cain is cast out, a fugitive. And he does something remarkable. He tries to build a world that will make him feel safe, a world that doesn't need God. He builds the very first city, a monument to human achievement and to his own defiance. And the irony here is just, you can't make this stuff up. God condemns him to be a restless wanderer. So where does he go? He goes to the land of Nod, which literally means wandering. And what does the wanderer do in the land of wandering? He builds a city, a fixed, permanent place. He is trying to build his own security, his own salvation, right in the face of God's judgment. And his descendants, well, they are brilliant. They create civilization as we know it. You've got Jubal, who pioneers economics. Jubal, the father of music and art. Tubal-Cain, the master of technology and weapons. This is what we call common grace. God allows even ungodly people to create beautiful, powerful things. But there's a fatal flaw in it all. It's all built for their own name, their own glory.
And this civilization of Cain hits its absolute peak with his descendant Lamech. This guy is the first to defy God's plan for marriage, and then he writes a song, a poem bragging about his own violence. Think about that progression. Cain killed in secret and was filled with shame. Lamech kills, and he sings about it, boasting that his vengeance is 11 times greater than God's promise for Cain. Violence has become art.
So, just as this loud, proud, violent city of man seems to have conquered the whole world, the story quietly pivots. God's plan is not finished. In the midst of all that darkness, he starts something new, a quiet glimmer of hope. Adam and Eve have another son. They name him Seth, which means appointed, because Eve believes God has appointed him as a substitute for righteous Abel. And Seth's son is named Enosh, which means mortal or frail man. Do you see the staggering difference? Cain's line is all about power and pride. Seth's line begins by admitting, we are weak, we are frail. And that humility leads to one of the most important verses in the whole book. While Cain's descendants were busy building cities to make a name for themselves, Seth's descendants, realizing just how frail they were, began to publicly call on the name of the Lord. That right there, that is the beginning of the true counterculture. That is the seed of the church. So the chapter leaves us with these two paths, stretching across all of human history and leading to two very, very different destinies. Two bloods, two destinies. The question is, which one is yours? On the one hand, you have the way of Cain. It's the path of human achievement, of pride, of violence, of building your own security and your own name. On the other hand, you have the way of Seth. That's the path of faith, of humility, of acknowledging your weakness and calling on the name of the Lord for your salvation. And it all comes back to blood. The blood of Abel cried out from the ground, and it demanded justice against his murderer. But the book of Hebrews tells us that there is another blood, the blood of Christ, that speaks a better word. It doesn't cry from the earth, it's sprinkled from heaven. It doesn't demand vengeance, it offers forgiveness. Abel's blood accuses the killer. Christ's blood, it pleads for the killer. It says, Father, forgive them. So this ancient story becomes a very modern question, doesn't it? It's for you and it's for me. When all the noise of life fades away, in the quiet of your own heart, which path are you really on? Are you on the path of Cain, trying to build your own name, offering God the works of your own hands? Or are you on the path of Abel and Seth, trusting in a better blood and calling on the name of the Lord?